Hey all, and welcome back to another NGS video. I recently put up a list of things to do while we were waiting for winter to come around and give us Retem, and one of those was taking screenshots. I wanted to expand on that with some general tips and tricks as well as how to use GShade since I've been seeing more questions about how to install it around the community. Before we get into that, my name's Zan, and I make NGS videos here on YouTube about once a week. I also stream on Twitch every Friday night. Link for that's in the description below. And finally, as with any YouTube video, a like and subscribe if you enjoy what you see is always appreciated. With that, let's get into the video. Starting off with the tips for vanilla screenshots, I presume most of you already know the basics, but in case I do want to go over some of the things that can be missed, like how you can have the UI off by default when taking screenshots by going into System, Options, and Graphics. This can make it show everything, nothing, or just the chat bubbles when you take a screenshot. The latter might be good for when you're trying to take screenshots of the story, or you're trying to tell a story of your own. If you'd rather have the control of turning the UI off when you want, or need to make a recording of a clean picture, you can also use the /UI off followed by the number of seconds up to 600. For instance, when I record my background footage, I'll start with the chat command /UI off 600 and let it roll. For something shorter, you can use something like /UI off 30 for a 30-second window without the UI. Finally, the quick menu has options to select camera or light. With a non-premium account, you get access to 3 different camera save options, and premium accounts get an additional 3 camera options, as well as 3 lighting settings. Getting into the more advanced tips, there are some chat commands that go beyond the ones I've already mentioned. If a user types in /LA and the emote name, it uses the emote one time unless it's a looping emote like a dance. But a premium user can add S and a number after the command to freeze the emote after a number for 10 seconds, allowing you time to get the pic you want. For instance, /LA greet S1 pauses the emote while waving. For longer emotes, like light and dark, doing something like /LA dark light S5 would get you this action. All users can use the chat shortcut /CLA as a replacement to use the opposite type's emote. For instance, /CLA dark light would then give the dark orbs for Zan. One final chat command that you might find useful is /CE, which has your character look directly at the camera for 10 seconds. /CE all has all surrounding characters look at the camera, which is great for group shots. You can set this as an indefinite thing if you're looking for multiple shots with /CE on or /CE all on. To turn this off, replace on with off, so /CE off. Some final tips for the features already baked into PSO2 is get close and personal with the camera. This is going to be more something that leans on photography skills, but play around with the angle of the camera or how close or how far you are away. If you want to get a best friends feel from you and another character, have the camera zoomed in close. Want to show off the scale of how big an area or monster is? Zoom out as far as you can. One last tip in this area is to not be afraid of tilting the camera. You know how those screenshot masters get such detailed views of them without cropping? They turn the camera 90 degrees just like a real photographer. You might need to tilt your head or the monitor a bit, but taking a picture in portrait instead of landscape can provide a whole new perspective. No pun intended. Now to get into what I'm pretty sure most of you are here for, the shaders. Installing GShade itself is pretty simple. Download it from the link in the description, point it to your PSO2 data folder, and then load up the game. For most Steam users, it'll be in your default install location, which I've shown in the video now. Feel free to pause now if you need to find it in your system. Windows Store and Epic users might have installed it in its own folder, so you'll need to check those on your own. For those who are on Xbox or JP players on the other consoles, sorry, this doesn't work for you, as it's a PC program. As a warning, technically GShade is a gray area. It's a client-side mod, and Sega is aware of the program and usually turns a blind eye to it. As an example, if you look at the rules of the screenshot campaign that just wrapped up, they do state it has to be images from PSO2, not taken with shaders. People have also been using it on JP for years, so the odds of you getting banned from it are closer to none than slim, but this is covering my bases in case something does happen down the line. Basically, consider this to be something like Tweaker. Sega knows it exists and doesn't really care until the program does something they don't like. Booting up PSO2 for the first time will give you a banner at the top saying press insert to configure GShade. Pressing that will give you a red menu with a long list of checkboxes. This is all the filters added by default, which can be daunting, but click through them and see what you can find. Do note that everything you do on here saves, so before you start clicking, make sure to create a new shader file by pressing the plus button next to the bar that says off. I went with something basic and selected hdr.fx and cinematicdof.fx, and with one minor change, went from the left image to the right. That minor change was in the cinematic DOF config, and I disabled mouse-driven autofocus since it was causing the background to come out clear and the character was blurred. You can also try out the presets provided by default, as they might get the look you want. Another option is to download a set of presets specifically made for PSO2. GitHub user Hitman66 has a list of presets available to download that they made for PSO2. That links in with the rest in the description below. The install instructions should be in there, but you unzip the file, copy and paste them into the GShade-presets folder in your PSO2_bin directory, and you're set. I'll also have a secondary link to ArcSlayer with alternate instructions. One thing to note is those instructions are based on the 32-bit client, so you can ignore the delete d3d9.dll instruction, as DirectX 9 is no longer supported by PSO2 as of the NGS release. Oh, before we get going down the photo rabbit hole, I do want to bring up one possible pain point. When you log back in, GShade loads in by default. This can bring up some interesting images on the main screen. To resolve that, we can do one of two things. Option number 1 is to press Shift F3 to turn the shader off again, or number 2 involves changing the default settings. To do that, press the Insert button to bring up the menu again, and click on the Settings tab. You can either click on Enable Startup Preset and select the Off preset in the Startup Preset path, or the Do Not Load Shaders on Startup option. They both require going back into the menu, but the former would be faster as you only need to select the shader you want. One last thing to note. By default, the screenshot key is something different than the usual print screen command that PSO2 uses. Mine's currently set to Control-Shift-F10, and I believe that's the default, but you can check it in the settings window. This can also be changed, but I want to keep it that way since I want to use GShade for special shots. With that, you should be able to at least get started on your path to Twitter and Reddit greatness. I'm still a beginner at this as well, so if there's any tips you'd like to share, feel free to post them in the comments below. If you like what you saw, hit that like button, and consider hitting the subscribe button if you want to see videos as they come up. If you want to ask questions in real time, I stream over on Twitch every Friday night at twitch.tv/xantm. Otherwise, see you next week for the next video. Have a good one.